Hey everyone, it's Neon Polygons, and today I want to give you guys a quick look at a little bit of video game movie history, and that is with a real-life movie prop used in the film Street Fighter the Movie, which came out in theaters in December of 1994. So for those of you who have watched the movie, you'll remember the comical scene between M Bison and Sagat, where we were introduced to Bison Dollars, in which case Sagat would say they're not worth the money, or this money is not worth the paper they're printed on. And then Bison would actually tell Sagat that their true value would be around 5 million British pounds after they kidnapped the queen. So what you see here is an actual true, screen used prop of a Bison dollar. Now, in the film, or I guess in real life, 175 copies of this dollar bill were actually created, but 138 of them are in the hands of a private collector, more than likely a movie buff collector, and I wouldn't say like a video game aficionado. The remainder of those 175 replicas, or I guess props of that batch, were actually dispersed, and you'll see them every now and then on secondary markets such as eBay, or screen prop resellers such as Screenworn or screenprop.com, in which case they don't really go for a lot of money, but in recent times they've actually skyrocketed in value as the film has built a cult status. So what I'm going to show you is how to tell if a Bison dollar is real or not. And by that I meaning it's the real life prop used in the film itself. So right off the get-go, the first thing I want to show you is the actual color tone of the background of a Bison dollar. And you can see here, it's a little bit of this peach kind of tannish color. Now, in the film, and I'm not sure if it's due to color correction or possibly just kind of the lighting, but there's a much more of a darkish reddish tone to the color of a Bison dollar. Now, I personally think that's actually its true color, or just slightly, possibly slightly lighter or slightly darker from that. But nonetheless, because the dollar bill is practically at this point 30 years old, or almost 30 years old, the color has essentially faded over time. And so you can tell it's a true Bison dollar by just basically seeing, checking what's its color tone. If it's in that darkish reddish color, then more than likely it's a fake, even though that is the color that you see in the film. Now, the reasoning again behind that is just due to age. So what a lot of these, I guess, replica makers do is they actually take screenshots from the movie, twist and distort and skew its perspective, and then print from that image. And so when they do that, you're not actually seeing the true color tone of what it would be 30 years later. So how can I tell that the coloring has faded over time? Well, there are parts of this Bison dollar that I can see that have more or less started to, I guess, disappear. And so when I see that, that's how I know it's not really a bad ink job, but more so a bad conditions in which the dollar bills have been kept in. So just think about when, if you had a dollar bill from, 1990, a lot of times they don't really fade, they don't change color, but they tend to fade slightly, given certain temperature conditions. So another way to kind of tell if it's a true Bison dollar is right here, if I can get it to focus, is these two curved lines, one blue, one red. Now, this is on every true Bison dollar. Now, the reasoning behind this is not because this was meant to be an indicator of, fraudulence or not. It's because this was the printing flaw on the original Bison dollar, and then as they made the, copies of it, they just basically copied that flaw onto every part of the Bison dollar. Now, how do I know it's fake? Or sorry, how do I know it's legit? Well, that leads me to the next question to figure out how do I know it's a real Bison dollar, and that's by asking what's on the back, which is the same image. So for the first time, as I'm showing here, a lot of people have been asking what's on the back of a Bison dollar, and on the back of it is the same image of a Bison dollar all over again. So, and as you can tell right there, get it to focus, that red and blue lines are back. Now, another way to kind of tell if it's an actual real prop is check on along the H line, and it's really hard to tell on camera, but there's essentially two threads that go from one end from the H all the way to the end of the dollar bill. Now, basically, I don't think that was intentional. From what I can tell was when they were printing this on the papyrus paper, there was a way how they kind of did the ink that essentially more or less in the color correction or the way how they rendered this image, that it also at the same time too kind of had the image of these two threads that went from the H all the way to the end. And you can actually somewhat feel the line. You can't see it, but you can feel it. So if I went to the other side of this image, here it is, I can actually feel that thread. So this is a Bison Dollar in a nutshell. And I guess like the last way to kind of tell is to look at Bison's hat. Now, what a lot of people have tried to do is, unfortunately, they don't have a high-res capture of a Bison Dollar. So they're literally taking screenshots from the movie or the few photos that people who have come across these Bison Dollars, and they're taking those screenshots off social media, and unfortunately, a lot of them tend to be blurry, and they try to correct the blurriness by kind of like somewhat blurring this lapel on his hat. And you'll notice that if you have a real Bison Dollar, you can see this incredible amount of detail of these sketch lines. So a lot of the fake Bison Dollars that are out there, you don't see that detail on Bison's hat. And just one more detail, you can actually see, and it's really hard to tell, but there's a little bit of a notch above the skull in the Bison Dollar. On fake bills I've seen, you can't see that. It just looks like kind of a blurry kind of blob. So that's basically how you can tell this is a true Bison Dollar. It's basically based on the color, it's based upon the red and the blue lines, it's based upon the two threads, and it's based upon, I guess, the detail in Bison's hat. Now, there's no true value in a Bison Dollar, to be blunt. They're worth nothing. But kind of not worth nothing, because as time has progressed and the movie has hit cult status, this movie prop has essentially raised up in value. And so people have actually sold these on secondary markets for their proposed value in the film, which was around 644 USD per Bison Dollar. And surprisingly not, they've sold. So with only, I'd say, less than 40 copies of a Bison Dollar out there in circulation and the other 138 in a private collector's vault, these actually are quite valuable. And as time has progressed, they're becoming harder to find. Again, there's only 40 of these located in the world at this point, or out there in the market. And to give you some backstory how I came across this, I actually used to work at Universal at one point, and lo and behold, an old friend of mine was able to find, was around during a warehouse cleanup, and there was a plaque that had a Bison Dollar in it, and he offered to give it to me as a gift. And so he knew I was a big Street Fighter fan, and hence here I have a real life Bison Dollar in my possession. So that's my look at a Bison Dollar. And I hope this was like kind of an interesting piece of video game movie history for you guys watching out there. I know the movie is not exactly spectacular, but in a way, it's a fun movie. And the Bison Dollar, I guess, scenes in the movie, just made it even funnier. So if you like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and, let me know any questions that you have about a Bison Dollar. I'm posting it here for everyone to kind of see. And to my knowledge, this is the first time ever in a video or an analysis of a Bison Dollar where people have actually seen the back underside of a dollar, as well as like trying to figure out all the details to tell if a Bison Dollar is a true in use, I guess, prop, or if it's just a copy. So anyways, it's Neon Polygons signing off, and catch you all again soon.